Hello, kia ora, g'day, I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV with your Australia-only 7-day rainfall outlook and also the outlook to Christmas Day. We've got a special map for that as well. Let's make sense of what is going on at the moment. We've got the big picture here showing the wind. Not a lot of wind around Australia at the moment. The windiest weather in the yellow shading around Bass Strait. Bit of a northeasterly flow around coastal parts of New South Wales. That's more of a southeasterly for parts of Queensland thanks to a very weak offshore low pressure zone, and a bit of a southeasterly flow coming into coastal parts of southern Western Australia. We've also got this low offshore. Yesterday it was borderline within potential of becoming a cyclone, but it's too weak to do that, and it's now moving away, getting into cooler conditions. So not a lot of drama around Australia at the moment. The only other feature, a slight southerly flow right there in the central parts. So let's have a look at the thunderstorm risk for the next 7 days ahead. Quick animation, pause it if you want to take a closer look at it. But the main colour zones, possible thunderstorms in yellow, likely in orange, and then in that red shading, that's where it could become severe. So you do see a few severe risks for today, Thursday. Let's have a look now at the next 7 days ahead. And you're really going to see in the southern half of Australia, not as much energy. Most of that energy still out around the deserts of Western Australia, and gradually it goes further up to the top half and even the top quarter by the time we go to the end of next week. So we're seeing more energy up in the tropics. That is being noticed now, and further to the south, high pressure zones certainly keeping conditions a lot drier in the next week ahead. So let's break that down for you. Here we are on Friday. Big storms continuing down here in the Southern Ocean, but further northwards, not a lot of energy, although Queensland's seeing finally some big downpours coming through. So we do see that thunderstorm risk over the next 24 to 48 hours around parts of Queensland. Heavier falls coming through there, but it doesn't take much to go further inland before those downpours disappear. Again, around Western Australia, mostly through inland parts of the Pilbara, more of those thundery conditions coming through for you. So basically on Friday, from about Mackay and northern Queensland over to the top end in Katherine and inland parts of the Pilbara, those are pretty much the only areas at risk of having proper substantial wet weather. Everybody else looks mostly dry, with a bit of a westerly flow over Tasmania because of these storms further to the south. So speaking of these storms, we've got the Vendee Globe, the solo yacht race around the world. They must be in the most terrifying part of the planet at the moment with these major storms going by. You know, they've got 50-knot winds with them. In land speak, severe gales. And you're out on a boat all on your own with gigantic waves taller than houses going past you. So remarkable conditions. There were 40 yachts initially. 2 of them have abandoned the race. The leaders are all French at the moment. There is I don't think there are any Australians, but there is a New Zealander, Kiwi Conrad Coleman. He was 28th when we recorded this. So for the next week or so, they're all going to be going past here to the south around the Antarctic exclusion zone, where you've got to watch out for icebergs and things like that. All right, let's get back into the forecast into the weekend. You can see another big storm following the other one south of New Zealand. So it is stormy stuff down there for those solo sailors. Around Australia, more thunderstorms widespread across Western Australia. I said the other day that there's been a remarkable amount of rain there. Hopefully next week I can show you the map from the Bureau of Meteorology showing you just how much wetter than average it has been around Western Australia over the last 4 months, well above normal. Across the whole year, it's not as alarming, but over the last 4 months, there has certainly been a lot of wet weather around Western Australia, and more of those inland thunderstorms. If you're in coastal areas, you're not necessarily getting that wet weather. It's further inland around the deserts. And around Queensland, showers are around on Saturday, but remember that pale blue at the bottom of the scale, it may not amount to very much for you there on Saturday. All right, let's go through to Sunday. More thunderstorms through inland parts of the Pilbara. Not much going on elsewhere. A couple of showers might bubble up around the very east there, northern parts of New South Wales, mostly around Queensland. You've got a humid northeasterly coming in here. Now, a lot of people ask me about the red line and the blue lines. Keep it really simple. It measures air thickness, and you can get quite complicated explaining all of that. But basically, north of that red line is all that tropical moisture, that humid, heavy air. Now, as it moves in over the dry parts, it loses a lot of that moisture, but still retains the heat. So you're going to be noticing that heat on Sunday dropping further southwards, coming into more of those main centres in the south there as a result of that red line dropping. And the blue line it's the other way around. It's Antarctic weather coming up, or cold weather, which you do notice. In between the red and the blue, that's the temperate zone that most of Australia's main centres, at least the southern ones, and much of New Zealand, we're in that temperate zone. So we do notice when these red lines drop down, you will feel that heat, and temperatures could be jumping up by more than 15 degrees, in some places getting up to about 40 degrees in some of the main centres, and certainly above 40 degrees inland. You see that on Monday, the red line pushes out, strong north to northwesterly flow, pushing it out to sea down into the Southern Ocean. So that heat extends right across Victoria, the ACT and New South Wales. Cloudier and slightly cooler if you're in Brisbane, although it's cooler, but it's not as excessively hot as it could be. That red line's very close to you, but you just might notice that sea breeze being a touch refreshing. But around Norfolk Island, there's a low pressure zone there. You're going to feel that humidity around you, and more showers through Western Australia, although not overly widespread there. So we start to see some more widespread showers on Tuesday around Queensland, mostly between Rockhampton to Brisbane, or just north of Brisbane. Hot, humid weather pushing out here. It's quite interesting. You'll be seeing Sydney's temperatures rocket up around Monday and Tuesday, but then it drops. You see that blue line coming into Tasmania, so that's a taste of spring still with us. You'll feel the windy weather, the west coast rain, and that temperature drop, giving you a taste of what the sailors south of you are getting at the moment there around Tasmania, and even parts of Victoria getting that southerly change. It's a bit windy elsewhere though, southeasterlies coming in, and maybe a bit more northeasterly for Western Australia, but windier weather there, while low pressure sort of hangs around to the north here, bringing a few showers and thunderstorms, isolated ones though for the most part. And similar on Wednesday as well, more thunderstorms, isolated ones around Queensland, maybe a couple up here around the northeastern corner of New South Wales. Otherwise, those showers are just coming off the sea. They'll be light, they won't add up to very much. And then you've got those windy, dry easterlies that go all the way from the Tasman Sea right across Australia and well out over the Indian Ocean. Northwards of that, that's where you see the thunderstorms around the top end and that very northern part of the Kimberley. So our final map is for Thursday of next week. We do have one more after this for Christmas Day though, but you can see here windy northeasterly flow or easterly flow across Australia. So you'll feel those windy conditions, dry for a large portion of Australia. So windy, hot, dry. That's the forecast for Thursday of next week. Further north you go, the higher the risk there is of that humidity, cloud, showers, maybe a few isolated thunderstorms. Generally speaking though, not a massive amount of rain. And this is a big high pressure zone south of South Australia and over the top of Tasmania, and another high pressure zone over the Indian Ocean. So that is protecting you from these big storms where the yachts are carrying on as we go towards the end of next week. So just to quickly make sense of the rainfall, here is the 7-day animation. And like I said, there's not a massive amount of rain around Australia this week, some very large dry areas. Most of the wet weather is around Queensland and Western Australia and the top end. The key goes up to 100, which is purple. You might notice some sort of darker blue inside the purple. That's where you go up to 150 millimeters. Pretty isolated areas where you're seeing that on the maps though, so not really worthy of talking about, but most of those areas that have got the purple are sort of in that 60 to 100 millimeter range over the next week, and most of South Australia and most of Victoria, New South Wales and Tasmania not seeing much in the way of wet weather. All right, here we go, Christmas Day. The forecast. This is not locked in this far out, but lots of you ask for it, so do the media outlets. So why not give you the maps that I can see? And what we're seeing at the moment, and remember this is not locked in yet, but what we are seeing is a large pool of low pressure in the Coral Sea. That could be fueling some humid, showery, cloudy weather for a large portion of Queensland, and all the way down really to about the border of New South Wales. That's where it changes. Could be quite hot for New South Wales, windy for Victoria, could be gale force winds coming through there potentially, and spring-like around Tasmania, and maybe spring-like also down in the very bottom southwest corner of Western Australia, but hot, humid, thundery weather for a large portion of the Northern Territory and many other sort of northern centres. So like I say, not 100% locked in this far out. We'll be keeping an eye on where this goes though. We'll be updating you again on Monday of next week. Have yourselves a great weekend.